Today on Strictly Sports, we're going to be previewing Super Bowl 50. I'm Morgan.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Evan.
So this is the third year in a row the number one seed will play the number one seed from the NFC and the AFC.
Step it up, guys. Jeez.
Young ego versus the wily veteran. Who are you guys taking?
Do we want to jump right into this right now, or do we want to break it down a little first?
Well, I got some fun facts.
You got some fun facts?
Fun
We got
facts.
fun facts today. We got intriguing storylines. Why don't we do a tail of the tape? Why don't we measure this up before we make any uninformed decisions, unless you guys want to dive in and then break it down?
Well, we have the number one scoring offense against the number one total defense. The Broncos are 0-4 in the Super Bowl when wearing their orange jerseys. They're going to be wearing white. Panthers wore black against the Pats when they lost, so they're going to be wearing black. 10 out of the last 11 Super Bowl team winners have been wearing white. Do you think that's going to help the Broncos beat the Panthers, or is the offense too potent?
Hey, it's only weird if it doesn't work, am I right?
I mean, on the surface, I guess, yeah, I'd say that doesn't really matter. But, superstition, I guess. And then the one time my team lost the Super Bowl in the recent years, they were not wearing white. And the two times they won, they were. So I guess it could be something to it. I'm just disappointed they're not bringing out those baby blues because
Those are pretty.
those are pretty. I like those ones. I don't know. If I'm picking between the two, I think right now my gut's still with Carolina, though. I don't think it's going to be as much of a blowout as people are thinking it'll be.
Yeah, it'll be nice to not have to look at the Broncos in those ghastly orange uniforms also.
You don't like the Orange Crush?
Too much.
Too much.
So if you guys were betting men, the Vegas odds, Panthers are favored by 6 points.
Well, how I
Who do you
would
have
bet
your
would be
money on?
much different than who I think is going to win the game. Because if
Okay.
I was a betting man,
You
the
can take the Broncos
money
points.
would be with the Broncos. Because why would you not throw down for that?
Yeah, I think it could be very possible it comes down to a last second kick. So I mean, taking the under on that wouldn't be a bad choice, but yeah, it's a toss up. You said it's the top offense versus the top defense. Not to say that the Panthers defense is a slouch, but it's worth noting the last time this happened 2 years ago, we know our Seahawks what their number one defense did to a number one offense. So I mean, if it plays like that, then you could have a big win for the defense and the Broncos, but like I said, the Panthers' offense is no slouch.
Yeah, and their defense isn't either. I mean, they're pretty solid. I mean, they've got some injuries that could be concerns. But when you look at it, honestly, they're not carbon copies of each other, but they do the same things. They're both teams that when you first think of them, at least coming into the year, you think, for the Panthers anyway, defense. Broncos, you might have thought offense until everyone saw the slow decline of Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have thought the Panthers' defense would have been what it is this year, but you knew they were going to be good.
Yeah, like they're solid. I mean, you got Kuechly, Quan Shorts, an animal, man. He's getting good.
Josh Norman arriving way ahead of schedule.
Yeah, who saw that coming? Like, no one saw that coming at all. I wouldn't say ahead of schedule, but like
Cam Newton fought it into him in training camp.
yeah, right.
Newly
Seriously.
added Jared Allen and Lotu Lele definitely help on the line. I think the key to this game is going to be, I think in stopping the Broncos' offense is going to be pass rushing Manning and making him really uncomfortable.
It'll
Make him want to retire.
Yeah,
Well, I think he already wants that.
Yeah, it'll probably be his last game. Obviously, we're speculating, but I think for the Panthers, the first thing they're going to want to do is to come out fast like they did against the Hawks. I mean, the Hawks and Arizona for that matter, those teams got down quick and just had to play catch up the whole game and couldn't do it. And for my money, Denver won't be able to either with that offense. I don't think they're fit to play catch up. They keep it close and they let their defense do what they do, let guys like Von Miller and TJ Ward and all those guys fly around, then it could be a fun day to watch that defense.
I think that's just right too. I think like if you're the Panthers, you want to pounce out early. You've been criticized for not being able to close out games, and I think you get with that Denver defense. If Denver's still hanging around in the third, fourth quarter, and Carolina doesn't have a double-digit lead at that point,
Don't
that's
let
when you
Peyton
got
have his magic
that's when
come,
you got to
too.
start worrying. Just because I don't think Peyton's what he was. Honestly, I don't even think he would be the key factor. But turnovers would happen. Game changes on a dime like that, and if the running game gets going, C.J. Anderson seems to save all of his best moments late in the season and late in the game. So I just feel like if you're Carolina, you want to get that early lead because you don't want to be hanging around with that defense come the fourth quarter.
Like you were saying, Evan, they've just completely dominated in the playoffs, the Panthers have. Earlier in the year, I thought their schedule was a joke. I kind of doubted their strengths. But this team was number one in rushing yardage. Or actually, sorry, number two. Bills were number one. But Jonathan Stewart is 8th in yards, and he hasn't even broken over 1,000. This is really a team rushing effort, and I think the key to the Broncos to even have a shot in this one, they're definitely gonna have to contain.
Don't they have like a stupid stat too on like how many straight 100-yard games they have collectively as a team? It's been like almost
Carolina's
3 years,
impressive.
right? Yeah, it's been crazy.
I can believe it with the last 3 years of Cam, Jonathan Stewart, and D'Angelo Williams. D'Angelo's gone now, but Jonathan Stewart and Cam are picking up the slack, and right now Jonathan Stewart's got some fresh legs. Showed it against the Hawks, went down a little bit against Arizona, but those legs sure look fresh. He was real patient, which will be helpful for them playing against an aggressive Broncos defense that hurt the Hawks in that aggressive nature. So that's another way that the Panthers can offset the powerful Bronco defense.
Cool. So what are you guys thinking like some key matchups in this game are going to be? Like we've talked about, what they overall do well. What are some X factors? What are some one-on-one matchups that you're most interested to see how they play out?
For Carolina on offense, I would say the tackle play, which you probably wouldn't think of very much, but if you're having to block Von Miller every play or every other play, that's going to become an X factor. If Cam Newton's off balance because of what Von Miller or other guys, Derek Wolfe, et cetera, are doing, then that halts what Carolina wants to do, because what Carolina wants to do is go through Cam Newton. And if they can't go through Cam Newton and Von Miller is wreaking havoc in the backfield, then that's going to disrupt everything that's going on for them. And that starts with the 2 tackles for Carolina.
I'm going to go off what Evan's saying the running back and the fullback that shift to the side, because what they do is the line slides either to the left or the right to protect the edge for Newton. And then they have 2 guys in the backfield, and both of those guys go to block the guy coming off the other edge.
Sometimes it's Tolbert, sometimes it's Olsen. I've even seen them do they'll pull a wide receiver running across the field.
I can see Funchess doing that.
Funchess does it sometimes. A lot of times, though, they'll send Ted Ginn streaking, and they'll give you that option of,
end around.
Is he going to hand it off? Is Cam going to run it? Is he going to pitch it to Ginn? And I think that's another reason why the Panthers are so hard to defend.
Yeah, they really got to seal that edge, so that's going to be my key matchup. If I could pick a key player, I would go with Thomas Davis. I think his presence is going to be much needed, even with his broken arm. I want to see if he can throw some clothesliners on some people.
Yeah, see, the matchup I'm looking for, there's 2 really big matchups that I'm excited to see. I think it's interesting that we all kind of went O-line here, so that's good. I'm going to flip it, though. I'm going to talk about Denver's O-line. To me, it's that interior part of the line that I'm worried about, because you got K'Wan Short. He's able to bust up through the middle. You got Star Lutule. He's a run stuffer. They don't really send Kuechly too often up the middle, but they do all kinds of crazy blitzes and stuff. Sometimes they send Kurt Coleman crashing down. Sometimes, So I think the middle is going to be really important, because Denver is not going to be trying to win the game throwing, I don't think. I think they're going to complement it, but I think they really want Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson to get going, something that they haven't really been able to do very consistently, both of them. I mean, they've each had their moments throughout the year, but they've never had consistency, and that's going to be huge in this game. Another one I'm looking for is Demaryius Thomas going to hold on the ball? I think it's Demaryius Thomas' hands versus himself, honestly. Josh Norman's probably going to be chasing him down, but it's been a really down year for DT, and I'm curious to see. He has the record for the most catches in the Super Bowl in that Seahawks. His hands haven't been very reliable ever since then, it doesn't seem like, or at least not to the standard he was. So I'm curious to see how he performs. Any other matchups you guys are looking at?
Yeah, well, a lot of things you guys said are really true. Demaryius has had a real up and down season, but he should be and could be one of the guys that Peyton should be looking at, especially after what he did against the Seahawks on the biggest stage. Another guy that's probably another X factor that he'll be looking at, Owen Daniels, had a big game against New England, had a couple touchdowns. Could look for Peyton to find him again, too. But I liked what you said, Ryan, about the Denver offensive line. It's been patchwork at best. If you thought the Seahawks had a bad O-line going throughout the whole year, Denver's right there with them with those woes. So with Coach Gary Kubiak wanting to run the ball so often with that offensive line, it kind of plays into the strengths of the run stopping of the Panthers, especially Kuechly and Davis, if Davis is going to be healthy enough. So that's going to be tough for them to overcome, and then to have Peyton back there in 3rd and long situations and just let Norman sit back on Thomas and other guys sit on Daniels. It'll be tough. There's a lot of interesting matchups and a lot of little intricacies of what might happen. So, yeah.
I think both of your matchups kind of factor into Manning's age and him relying on his tight ends in the middle of the field. And then I think that's going to be a challenge for him with Kuechly, normally dominating the center of the field and having good matchups against tight ends. So
Factor that I would have is Ted Ginn. He's not, I wouldn't say he's an elite player or anything like that, but people know who he is. And especially, he's had 7 kicks returned back in his NFL career. So if he can get his hands on a punt, maybe if Denver gets backed up in a field position battle and go 3 and out, and they kick it to Ginn with his heels on the 50-yard line going in, you never know what he can do when he's got the ball in his hands. And then you see him as such an over-the-top threat for Cam Newton if they want to have a quick strike or something like that, a big play, which they kind of build off and feed off of. You could look for Ginn or even Philly Brown make a play like that.
And Sanders is no bum either. Well, you know.
I know. Definitely I know. But brings up another key point, though. I think you can. It's hard, but you definitely can throw on these guys. I think Pittsburgh laid the blueprint early in the year. We torched them. No one thought we could. Yeah, Pittsburgh torched Denver early in the year. And I don't think that people necessarily think of Cam as a great thrower, but he's had his moments, and he's shown that he can. I mean, he opened up his career with 2 400-yard passing games right off the bat. So we know the guy can throw, even if he's had spotty receivers this year. Speaking of Cam, what are you guys' opinions on him? He's a very controversial issue. As everyone's focusing on Peyton Manning maybe being this last game ever, the other quarterback seems to be the most polarizing figure in football as of right now. You either love him or you hate him. So I kind of want to know where you guys are at.
Well, let me just say that I love this guy's style of play. He's so fun to watch. I mean, I got to give him that. But the stuff after the play, it gets on my nerves. I mean, I can stand the celebration, but it somehow seems self-centered and egotistical. And I don't know. I'm not the only one that has this opinion, but I know you guys.
You definitely are.
You're definitely not the only person with that opinion. I'm a little biased. I've been a fan since his days at Auburn. Knew who he was even before coming out of JC's. So he's been on my radar for a while, and I've vouched for him in the league for a while because people just kind of never really seem to mention him when it comes to good quarterbacks until now. And now people know who he is, and he's having a lot of success, and he's letting you know he's having a lot of success. So for me, it's a broken record. A, if you don't like it, stop it. And B, I just don't think people are used to the quarterback position being a position where somebody will let you know when they're doing something well. The only person I can really think of is Rodgers with his double check and stuff like that, which isn't even big. I just don't think people are used to quarterbacks doing that type of stuff that people are accustomed to seeing receivers and corners like Sherman or Terrell Owens when we were younger doing stuff like that. I just don't think people are accustomed to quarterbacks doing it, and I think that's where the disagreements kind of come into play, and they're just not used to a guy like Cam at quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know, and I think there's some selective bias there. I mean, Rodgers has his discount double check. He does. Everyone knows Phillip Rivers has one of the biggest mouths in the game. You can see him on the sideline, having a conniption almost every game.
I don't like him either, though.
I don't like him too much either, but I got bias because
He's a good player.
That quarterback class, I got to root for my guy. But Tom Brady, he's also had his moments. I mean, we've seen it all before. Broadway Joe back in the day. Favre even had his moments, although he was a little more lax, I would say, than Cam. So I don't know. I think there's some selective bias there. I like it. I think you got to have personality in the NFL. I'm personally entertained by all the dancing, the shenanigans. I feel like you need personality in this league. I don't want every quarterback to be a Russell Wilson robot. It's boring to me. I'm glad that he celebrates, and I think people overlook a lot of the good stuff he does. He also started the tradition of finding, whether it's home or away, finding the kid in the stand and giving him a football.
I do love that.
There's a lot of good stuff about him, and I think this is a guy that in 2014, at the end of the year, he was in a car accident. He almost died, and I think he's just out there loving life right now. He's on top of his game, and why shouldn't he celebrate?
Yeah, see, for me, I don't even understand it because for me, it never even occurred to me until I heard all the backlash and all the Seahawks fans coming at his head, basically. For me, it didn't make sense. I mean, last year you had the same thing happening with a guy like Odell bursting on the scene, making huge plays, dancing after every touchdown, doing all that stuff. And he's a receiver, so people are used to it. And to me, the only thing I can think of is the fact that he's a quarterback and he's doing it, and people don't think a quarterback or the face of a team should do it. So I really just don't understand it. I can see why people would be upset about it or not care, but I just don't think it makes sense to limit a quarterback how they should act and not limit how a receiver or corner or whoever else wants to put themselves out there in the way that Cam is should carry themselves.
He's a great guy. He's definitely turned his life around since stealing laptops at Florida and having to go to JUCO. But I mean, I guess I don't agree with the whole Seahawks ban. That's just another level in terms of the Seahawks fan ban.
Into that.
But I guess I'm fine with the dancing too, the dab dance. Okay, it's all good fun. But he just has this stupid smile on his face on the sideline, and that's really the only thing that really gets on my
He
nerves.
does it under center too. He's just sitting back there like.
I love that. I love a player.
Maybe it's a little intimidation
I love
factor.
a player.
I don't
My favorite
know.
player of all time was notorious for that, Hines Ward. Everyone hated him for that. He'd hit that guy in the mouth. He'd come up and smile. And so, I mean, I think that's funny.
Again,
I enjoy
receiver
it.
though.
Yeah,
Again, receiver.
receivers do. I will agree with that argument that receivers kind of get a free pass at acting like this. I mean, I'd say Doug Baldwin kind of presents himself with the same.
When we're at a point where we're criticizing a guy because he's smiling, like where have we
Yeah.
reached? What point have we reached?
He's having fun. That's
He's
the bottom
having fun, and
line.
I think that's what you want. Anyway, let's shift out of this. I think we're all pretty tired of this conversation.
Definitely.
One of the things I like most about the Super Bowl is Media Week. It doesn't seem like this year there's been as many zany things happening. We don't know why anybody's there. I don't know, like last year with Marshawn Lynch, we all knew why he was there. But so I mean, there's a little confusion with that. But other than that, it's been pretty tame this year. I think Josh Norman at one point put on a
Lucha Libre
mask.
Snoop was there.
Snoop
was
when is
there.
Snoop
I didn't see
there?
that.
Snoop's always there though. Like it doesn't matter. So of course Snoop's there. Lots of celebrities show up. What was another good one? Cam, we learned that maybe it's good that he's a quarterback and not a rapper. I didn't really care for his flow too much. If I was going to critique Cam on anything, it'd be his flow. But I also like a lot of times the human interest stories come out, and it's stuff you wouldn't hear about, some of the players you wouldn't hear about. And one of the stories I heard this week while I was perusing through the endless media coverage that you can find this week, one of the ones I really liked was a story about Kurt Coleman. He's a safety for the Panthers, and it's a story about a former teammate. He wasn't even teammates with him for very long at Ohio State. That Coleman actually in practice he hit him and paralyzed him, and that's heavy. But it was an article talking about how their relationship has been pretty tight since then, and I would suggest you go read it. I don't even remember where I saw it, but just look it up. It was Kurt Coleman and this kid named Tyson Gentry.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Back from their time at Ohio State. I saw the same article on ESPN.
Yeah, it was ESPN. That's where I found it. And it's a pretty cool article. That's one of the main things I like about Super Bowl week. I mean, whether it be a couple years ago with Derek Coleman and his whole story, is that you get to see some of the human elements. Did you guys see any of the cool stories you wanted to?
Yeah, Brandon McManus, kicker for the Broncos, is using this platform of him being in the Super Bowl to advocate against anti-bullying. And I had no clue really. Well, I knew who Brandon McManus was, but he definitely wasn't on my radar until Super Bowl week. And just the fact that he's doing that, I mean, that's amazing. Anytime you can use your place in a high sports environment to advocate for something better than yourself is always very admirable.
Was he on the receiving end of the bullying?
I mean, he's a kicker, so probably.
Well, he can kick a 70-yarder.
No, that boy can kick. That's for sure. That's for sure. I mean, I knew a little about him just because I had him in fantasy a couple years ago. But I mean,
That's how we know these guys.
That's how we know these guys for real. But all right, I think it's time for predictions. How about we go around the table? We make predictions, score, and then we'll go around one more time. We'll do a prop bet and who we think is going to get the MVP. Prop bet, if anyone knows, it doesn't really have much to do with football. It could be a random thing that happens in the game. Anything like that. It's just make it interesting gambling. It's the Super Bowl. You got to do something crazy. All right, let's start with you, Evan.
I keep going back and forth in my head on who's going to win the game. I think it's pretty close. Somewhat leaning towards Carolina. The prevailing wisdom is that Carolina's going to win. I don't think it's nearly as close as, or I think it's way more close than people are making it out to be. People are saying Carolina's going to walk over them. But that Denver defense, I don't think they can be walked over. I think it's going to be closer than people think it's, or that most people are saying it's going to be. I think there's going to be some interesting plays. Both teams match up pretty decently. I don't think Peyton's going to do anything to put his team in jeopardy. I think he understands his role. He's not going to try and do too much. He might try and just facilitate things a little bit, let his defense do what they do best. And hopefully, if the game's under 20 points on both sides, Denver's going to win. If it gets above 20, Carolina's going to win. Overall, I think it'll be a one-score game.
So let's throw a score out.
Oh, you want to score?
I want to score out there.
Let's
be
go.
bold.
Let's go 24-20.
All right.
All right, so Vegas, 55% of Vegas is taking the Panthers. I'm going to have to go with that. I'm going to take even the points too. Or no, I'm not going to take the points for the Broncos. I think it's going to be a 37-27 ball game.
All right. I'm wrestling this one too. Honestly, I could see this going 1-1. There's only two ways I see this game playing out. And that's either A, the Panthers blowout, or B, a really tight defensive matchup that goes down to the very wire. I don't really know which one to pick. I don't know how they plan to stop that Panthers offense. Cam just can hurt you in so many different ways. I think Wade Phillips is a wily guy. I think he knows. I think the only way that really they can do it is if they contain it on the edge and send pressure up the middle. But you got to worry about that because Cam can run over guys up the middle too. So I'm going to go with the Panthers, and I'm going to say 33 to 20. I'm going to say 33-20. 13-point victory. Less than 14, less than 2 touchdowns, but I'm going to say 33-20. All right, let's do some prop bets. I'm going to say that Peyton Manning gets a rushing touchdown. I'm going to say he gets like a 1-yard scramble. It's going to be a QB sneak. I'm just going off of, we saw him run for a first down in the AFC Championship. I almost had a heart attack just watching it. I'm going to say he scores a rushing touchdown. That's my prop bet.
I got two for you. Beyonce gets more airtime than Coldplay
They
in
already
the
said she's the
halftime show.
headliner. I think that's happening. I saw a thing today. They said she's the headliner, so I think that's already down, man.
All right, here's my prop bet.
How do you think that conversation went? We picked Coldplay. I thought we didn't want him to sleep through this.
Yeah. Okay, let's bring in Beyonce.
Well, I'll say back. Bring him back.
I'll say, here's my prop bet. Jay-Z joins Beyonce on stage. There's
Whoa.
number one.
Okay, how does he? If Jay-Z makes it, how does he show up? I mean, they dropped. What was it? Was it?
He's Hova. It don't matter. It's his
Who
wife.
was a couple years ago? They dropped from the sky. They dropped Usher from the sky.
I could see that.
I'm saying like I don't care that he joined.
No,
I'm talking about how's he make his
coming in?
entrance? What's his entrance? Does he like fly a jet in? They just drop him off? Does he like dig out of the ground? Is like, oh yeah, like how's that work? I don't know.
That's for Jay-Z to decide.
Do they black it out? Do we have another
Yeah.
Super Bowl blackout?
No,
Then, oh god, Jay-Z's here.
That would be perfect.
That'd be dope.
I'm okay with that. My other one, the coin toss will be tails.
It will be tails.
It will be tails.
We're sure it's not going to be a no call.
Ooh, have a Rodgers situation all over again.
All right, I'm going to go with Thomas Davis strip sack.
Tom's day and it's strip sacks fumble. All right, MVP. I mean, I don't want to pick Cam, but at the same time, if Cam wins it, he'll be the only guy to ever win a Heisman, a national championship in college, a Super Bowl. If that happens, everyone's assumed he's already won the MVP. I've seen the media coverage all week. Everyone's just already said he's an MVP, not even like that he's gonna win it. So I think that's locked up. And then if he wins Super Bowl MVP on top of that, like what else do you got to do really? Like you got it all wrapped up. So I'm gonna go Cam for this one.
Denver wins. I'm going to go with Von Miller because I think he'll have to make some big plays in order for them to win. Carolina wins. I'm going to take it out on Cam Newton and go with Luke Kuechly.
Are we going league MVP
No, we're going with Super Bowl MVP, Morgan. We'll cut this part out.
here? Cam Newton is going to win MVP for sure if Carolina wins. I got to go with Evan's predictions. I think Von Miller too.
Well, since I
Manning's not
didn't
gonna get
pick a Denver one because I thought we had to pick one and stick with it, I'll go with the Denver one too. If I have to pick Denver, I'm gonna try to pick somebody. Let's see, it's a random nobody that's gonna come out of nowhere because that seems always we gotta have one Super Bowl hero. So I'm gonna say like Roby gets like a pick
Roby's
six at a
going to Disneyland.
key moment or something, and it's gonna be Roby.
I can see that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you want me to take it out? You want to take it out?
This was Strictly Sports. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another episode.